It's serious.
Pointer.
Never even drafted. The working.
Alright, then we have stamps again, they've been there every year, and it's a one-day event. We have lots of representation from stamps, so I'll go up to them to present themselves, but this one here is Joseph Carver, and I thought it was 2003. So that was what, 20 years ago? But they get talk us about what Sam does, but mainly about practicing projects and writing photos. Thank you very much. Pizza is here, and also we have students coming in again. And we want to listen today when they're going to have the annual shrimp bowl. Thank you very much.
There's cheese pizza you're looking for.
I think everybody's gonna take a pizza home. Everybody ready for this?
I'll get some later.
That interview go.
That's
You got to do mock interviews.
Yes, sir. Not too bad, not too bad. Ground hold against line.
You walk away with probably something's wrong. Every time we've done in the past, we interview again. Oh, it's definitely changed. Much better interview. What I'm gonna do here is I'm kind of got, every time we come up, we do UAVs or technology or GPS or, the last one we did, we switched over and did interviewing process, which I really kind of like. This one, we were kind of talking about doing proposals. But I don't think anybody in here actually sees that. Like, how do we price a job? You know, how do you work this thing? So we're gonna kind of run over that. It's gonna be a pretty open conversation. I'm gonna get through the commercial part here. How many firms do you have come up here and see you now? 10, 12, probably a bunch. Probably the biggest difference you're gonna see at Sam, just kind of Sam at a glance. How many employees we got now?
Over 1,600.
It's 16. I can't keep the flights with this. I think we're up to 1,600. There were 1,000 when they got us 5 years ago. About, seems like every month there's another office we have bought out somewhere. Big difference with us is we're not an engineering company. If you go to an engineering company, the survey group tends to be in secondary for the most part. We are the largest survey and mapping firm in the United States. We're the biggest buyer to Trimble equipment. Well, long shot. Trimble will actually let us get into their codes and work with it. We actually can go in and customize the stuff we have. We have a whole IT department that does nothing but programming for us. I got 31 office locations. That's out of date. The engineering news record, even with us not being an engineering firm, we're ranked number 92 in the country. So, I mean, just that's kind of, again, we're putting out about 350 field crews a day. So you kind of see the wide range of what we're covering. One of the top workplaces in the United States for 9 consecutive years. High commitment to safety and training. That's probably a better map of where we are now. Somebody asked earlier, you know, where's our maps at? I think Derek said we're international because we got one in Canada now. What you will notice, we're not in California. The environment there is kind of hard to work with. Trying to get labor or anything else over there. We have kind of stayed out of California. Everywhere else, we're pretty much there. Wide range of coverage on what we're doing. I don't think there's anything that we don't do. We got a really good Sioux. Actually, I wouldn't mind coming in. I think did we do the Sioux up here once? Probably about it, but we didn't really do it. I don't think we've done it on there. The Sioux, I think most people don't look at it for a survey kind of profession, Sue has really gotten really strong. We're really good at doing the location. It matches in with the GIS. And it's really getting to be a really good market for us to get into. We bought a full GIS company 3 years ago. So we really jumped our GIS and asset management up tremendously. We've always done laser scanning. The aircraft we have, I think we'll jump 3 times just the aircraft this year.
Yeah, there's 6.
Yeah. And they're really high-end aircraft. So there's not much we don't do. We spent $2 million just in network storage and bandwidth. You start looking at all the laser scanning we're doing, our IT infrastructure is amazing. When you download your data collector at night, it automatically reads. Well, we can get the code. So it knows what instrument you were running, how many hours it has on it. It tracks all the data on all our stuff in the background. You don't have to load it in. It knows what's going on. It goes back to Austin. It's backed up every day. You know, whether you want it or not, you have backups as soon as you log in. And the program's doing really well. I think we're one of the top 10 buyers of Ford trucks in the United States. Actually, Coleman made the Ford calendar.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because of as many trucks as we buy. All the trucks are set up really well, pretty high-end gear. Personally, in Tallahassee, we're kind of fighting them to use some lower-end gear. Because sometimes you just want a really simple instrument to take out, not something that scans it or anything out. So we're trying to talk them into. Actually, it's kind of funny you're having a battle. You grade your gear, but that's how it is. 1,600 employees, we probably have 150 job openings right now. I don't think it ever drops below that very much at all. Big thing is if you come in, if you want to move up, there are places to move up. I mean, it's such a wide range. It's not like you go in, I don't want to bash a mom and pop, but if you go somewhere where they got 10 employees, the hierarchy, you're not going to move up real fast. We can change you in different areas, different types, offices. If you want to run an office, we'll put you on a path to do that. One of the reasons everybody comes up here to actually recruit from Troy is they know we can move you up pretty quick. I mean, so we're walking in, we're not looking to hire you just to go run a field crew. We're trying to hire you to be an office manager. And that's really, you got the education, the background, you've already went through, basically you're weeded yourself out. If you come out of here, we're looking to bring you in and move you up. So we're going to do it pretty quickly. We've actually got what we call a seed program. We actually go and try to identify people that want to move up and try to train them and get them to move up. Because we can't grow if we don't have. So we're really trying to push. So some company like Sam, you got a lot of opportunities to move up. Actually, if you move up, pay is really pretty good. I think we're talking to somebody else that want to open their shop up. I hate to say I'm probably a project manager and stuff more than a lot of people that own businesses. They have a lot more stuff to it. So really, you got to kind of take a look at it. If you want to go somewhere and open an office with us, talk with us. Actually, our Salt Lake office was because Tyler was going to move. And they're like, look, we're going to move, just open an office up and we'll keep you going. That's become a really good office. So there's a lot of support when you're moving up. Culture benefits, I'm going to run through all that. I think we match up. I think we match up with the government as far as benefits, retirement, everything else. So really good matching program. We have an intern program. I'm going to get into that. If you're looking for an intern place with us, go ahead and try to get on, get the application, and go ahead and submit. We pay, what are we paying the intern? 17?
17 an hour.
Yeah, we'll pay you 17 an hour. Personally, I would probably go to a bigger office that has everything. It has scanning, GIS, has aerial, where you can go in there and look at all the stuff that you're not going to see here. I mean, they're going to try to teach you, but you can walk in and see everything that's going on. We pay for your transportation out there. We pay your room and board. Actually, it's pretty expensive for us to get an intern.
If you want to win a scholarship, come to Tallahassee. You want 3 years in a row.
Oh, which one?
We're three in a row.
Challenge.
Now, you might beat us on the can drive, but the interest.
That I can.
Yeah, you can. Sam has got a big commitment to the community environment. So like, we just did a can drive. I can't even believe how much stuff they pulled up.
Yeah, we had 5,500 pounds of food, out of 30 employees, I think. So it's pretty,
Yeah, I saw the picture of it. I'm like, now, the first year was Eric and us kind of got a challenge. They ended up winning it. But yeah, your load is like, I can't buy that much rice to throw there and get up to that. Again, you're gonna get paid. Look at it, get back up with us. I would probably try to say sooner the better.
yeah, I think the intern positions are open on our website now. So they go through February, I believe, and, but depending on the location, they'll have openings. So when we go to Niceville or you want to go to Knoxville or wherever it may be, there should be a link on our website.
Gentlemen, you're looking for?
I think it's up to, I think around 20 this year total.
But again, I would like, personally, if it was me, I'd go to Austin. So they got everything there. Houston's a big off, Dallas. You know, this depends on where you want to, if you just want a location that's close. Some people go take the Denver office and they want to go see Denver. And you know, they kind of cover a lot. But I would definitely do it.
What we try to do with the internship program is when you come in and intern for the summer, we want to expose you to as many things as possible in that amount of time. You know, we want, not just from the technical time. So like Joseph and I and Eric and others who usually have an intern, you know, we'll bring you in, show you how to do some of the technical stuff, but also, you know, bring you along to some of our actual client meetings. Where you can kind of see how we interact with clients, show you kind of how we prepare proposals, and show you the different aspects of the business. So we want, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to expose you to a bunch of different things at once. So you can kind of get an idea as to what kind of career path you want. So I really encourage everybody to apply. It's a great program. I mean, we've had students from, well, the past student we had in Tallahassee was from Penn State. We've had people from Georgia, you probably had students from all over as well. It's a great opportunity to get to see a different part of the country and to kind of see a different aspect of surveying. So yeah, I would highly encourage y'all to.
I think we'll pay you as a South State, Detroit. All right, now, enough to sell pitch. I'm gonna go into proposals. Because we're kind of talking now. Have any of you tried to price a job? Maybe not. Even if you're doing an internship, we're probably not gonna show you this in. But
Get all you want.
we kind of figured what to cost this up. You can see that.
Yeah, very good.
Proposals, where's Andy? Andy's probably the closest one to, well, we all work with all the proposals. Andy is really trying to go out and sell. That's another area, if you're really looking at business development, you know how to do this. You're okay working with people. We got a big department that just does business development. Actually, they get paid real well. Companies say they don't work till they get money. I got through this stuff. I was started looking at like, let's do proposals. I went up there and like, man, there's so many different kinds of proposals. We got internal, we got external, we got where you're hitting private people, you've got where we do big corporations, we're doing DOTs. I'm not gonna cover all these. I said, okay, what's the four main groups? I'm gonna kind of cover these for you. We really got to be what I'm gonna call short project proposal or call in. They're gonna call Joseph up and say, I got 5 acres, I need a topo and a boundary. And he's gonna write up a short item on that and can give you a price on it. Howie does that. Come on in. We better grab some food, because we gotta get a little off food. An old pizza. So you really kind of. I got Sam, we don't get as, well, our office didn't get as many of those. We tend to start getting into bigger work. Some of the smaller offices get a lot of. So it depends on where you're working at. Before I got bought out, I think I covered most of them. You call in, you talk to me. And I try to filter it out, because really I want the other guys working on stuff, but I always work with them to get prices up.
Alan, how do you know what proposals are being requested?
Well, I'll get to that.
Okay.
Oh, you know, Ann? Now, that's really gonna go, the short form would really are people calling in. You know, if they're price shopping, I probably don't stand a chance. Because they're gonna go bottom line fast, somebody out there's gonna do it fast, cheap. And not very good. So, but again, still be competitive with those, depending on what they're looking at. The other one is somebody like, Water Tower and Light, or, you know, I won't say DOT, but it's similar to that. Well, actually, if you have a service agreement with DOT, it's like that. It's what we call a master service agreement. Andy is really trying to go out and get MSAs, what we call MSAs, master service agreement. What we do with that is you get a client up that has a lot of projects. And once we get a master agreement with them, now each department can just go hire us. They haven't got to go vet us or bid us out. We can get an agreement with it. That is the ideal scenario for us. Because, you know, we got fixed prices. I'm going to show you how the prices work here in a second. But if we can get those, we're really kind of golden. That's probably the thing we'd really like to have. That's one of these bid projects where you will get advertisement. They will advertise out, and actually there's services that they will put the projects out that we're going to bid. Those are going to be bigger jobs that have more qualifications on them. Like, you know, hey, we got 200 acres, we're going to build something on it, and we want a price. So really, if it's a private company, there's no regulations on it. Then you can sit down, they'll give you specs, and you write up your stuff and send it in. If you get the bid, you win. I don't think we tend to do very many bid jobs. Josie, you do bid jobs?
50-50.
We don't get, I don't think we don't get a lot of.
Unless on the construction staking.
Yeah.
Offices do a lot of.
Yes.
Projects.
But usually we try to tie it into something else, so. We don't get a lot of that. Formal request, which is a request for a proposal or request for qualifications. That's when you're really getting in. They're gonna advertise that. That's gonna be mostly your federal type work. Because they can't just put a job out. They gotta go for qualifications or requirements on it. They will advertise those things in, depending on the state you're in, where they're gonna advertise them. Or they have bid services, they put them up. There's a place that we all go look for these notifications. And that's where they're gonna put them up. Probably the easiest one to look at is like DOT. DOT is gonna say, hey, we got a $2 million contract for surveying. Or we got a particular road we're gonna do. In that case, we're gonna go back and do a formal proposal. And those things get to be, I think we just did DEP. That's how thick the proposal is we sent in. That's gonna cover, they will sit down and say, here's how we're gonna grade, you know, I got these for you to pass them around. They're gonna give you a criteria on how they're gonna judge you. How busy are you? What's your qualifications? Can you run the LiDAR? What's your approach project? What's your QA/QC plans? And we have to go through and write all those up. And we are. Chad, how long do you think it takes us? It probably takes a couple of weeks to write one of these.
Based on the type of project, yeah. We can take up to 2 weeks, right?
Yeah,
Do you have prior experience of other similar projects?
Yeah, they will ask for your experience, they will ask for your staffing, they will ask for your resumes. They'll also ask for your licensure, your insurance, so all that stuff goes through. And usually what happens is they go through, read these things and judge them. And then most of the time, they're gonna come back and do an interview afterwards. Now you're gonna do a formal presentation. Then they get 20 of them, they narrow it down to 4 or 5. And then you're gonna do presentations.
And the project approach is usually a huge one for them. They want to know that you're going to approach, how you're going to approach the project. And, you know, and the other thing they look for is project understanding. You understand what the objectives of the project are.
Yeah.
And they want to see how you would basically tackle the challenge of that project.
And what sets you apart from everybody else? That's the big thing. Is like, you're going after a project, you're gonna have every other firm going after the same project, offer the same solution that you are. At the end of the day, you know, we provide data. How can we provide something that gets the data quicker, more accurate, and, you know, less cost? So that's the thing, is like, you go through this sort of formal proposal process, what can set us apart from every single firm that's going after it?
Yeah, I think the one you were just looking at, that was for the presentation. The one she just had her hand. We actually did that. The other one was proposal, that was the interview. So we made slides. Yeah, we make slides during the interview. They came back and, how many questions they give us? They give us six questions, say, answer these. I don't know how many firms they had applied. 40 firms applied, and then they turn around and interview you.
Well, they at least shortlisted 40.
Last time they had about 100 firms, write up that big proposal. And sometimes you go through there and like, what's the magic word? If we take a proposal and write it for one project, just turn around, and change the name, send it in, we will lose it. I mean, you really have to tell them for what that job is and what they're looking for at that particular time. But these jobs could be $2 million jobs, $5 million jobs. I've got them as low as 100. If it's 100,000, sometimes you're like, it's not even worth going after. You really got to make a judgment call. Do you want to spend the time to write all this up and submit? Sometimes we'll send it in because it's a new client. We just want them to know we're there. And then you turn around and win it. You know, and you're better than what you had before. So before you do any of the saying, I'm going to jump over any of the projects we got to do. We got to figure out how to make money on these jobs. So I'm going to kind of go over overhead rate. Every one of us in here that came from Sam today, I guarantee we know what our overhead rate is. So it's a cost allocated to a product or service. We have to know that so we can figure out what we're going to charge. Now, I'll kind of explain overhead real quick. This example is like a machine. That's kind of easier to understand. You know, it's your estimated total manufacturing over cost, and then how much time you're going to put into it. So if I got a machine that cost me $360,000, and I know I can do 90,000 machine hours on that breaks down to $4 an hour. So if I'm running that machine, I got to make $4 an hour to cover the cost of that machine. Now we're a service industry, so that's much more difficult. On how to figure that out. So really, what we're looking for is what do we spend as a company? How many billable hours do we have to charge into that? Because admin doesn't count, so you got to figure that out. The costs you got to look in there. I mean, start adding it up. It's all your expenses. It's utilities, insurance, office supplies, travel, advertising, overhead, vacation time. They say when they bought us out, Sam wanted the vacation time off the books. So I can tell you, I had to write a check for $80,000. That's how much accrued vacation time I had sitting in the company when they got. I don't know what yours was.
I'm just glad you paid before I got it.
Yeah. Yeah, they got him after they did me. But, you know, we're running through all of that. So I can tell you, like, I used to try to use, I had payroll expense, insurance was the second biggest thing I had in my company. I mean, we had 35 employees, but we were paying out. E&O was $30,000 a year. Then you got trucks, because you got 40 trucks running around. All the other, all the insurance we had, it was the second biggest factor I had in the company, just paying insurance. And, you're not making any money off of it. Then you had gear, so really, you gotta take all these up. Then you gotta figure out how many billable hours do we have people billing. When you divide that out, you kind of end up with a thing. So if you look at the circle, you kind of got the base salary, and this is from an architect firm, but let's just say you paid them $100 an hour. Now, if you had the benefits on the next level, you can see, okay, now I got to charge 125, 150. Now you take the overhead, that was just for the individual. Now you take the overhead for the company. Now we're charging much more than that. Then you got to add profit on. If you want a 10% profit or a 20, you have to add that on. So that outer circle is what you're really charging. So if you look at it here, it's
Alan, you're writing a proposal, one proposal per project, right? What percentage, because you might be doing 10 proposals or you might already have an existing project. What percentage do you say, well, my overhead for this project is going to be 10% of the overhead monthly cost?
okay, you look at that as a different kind of factor. What we're trying to do is actually get if I'm paying, fine, if he's charging $1 an hour, for me, our company, we got to charge about $3.40 to break even. So really, if I take him and say, okay, he's going to work 10 hours on that, it's $10 to pay, but it's really going to turn out to be 30. Yeah, it's going to be $34 for me to break even. Then we got to add profit on. Now, what you're saying is that when we're pricing the job out, we may look at it and say, okay, this is going to take a lot more gear, time, those other factors. We have to add that into the proposal.
So
You think it could-
I'll show you guys that here.
Do you take in consideration other projects that you already estimated how much those other projects, because like overheads, the cost of the salary, the electricity, do you say, well, I already charge 10% for that project. I have 10 projects altogether. Do I do 10%, 10%?
No, this goes
Yeah, it's just across the board.
across the board.
Okay.
Really, if you take this overhead rate, I don't care if you got one project or 10 projects. If I got somebody working on, they're making $10 an hour, I got to use that overhead to cover him. As long as he's billing. Your problem is, if they're not billing where your overhead rate was factored, then that rate gets worse. I mean, so any of these bigger corporations, you're gonna see them, they're looking at your DL or your chargeable time, because that's what everything's factored off of. When we go to DOT, we'll go through one DOT project, they will negotiate all the man hours, and then they'll take your overhead rate and say, here's what we're gonna pay you. And they audit us. We have a full accounting company come in and do the audit, and they'll tell you your overhead. When I started surveying, it was 3. That's what everybody uses, was 3 factor. If I'm paying you $10 an hour, I got to bill 30 to get you. Then they would figure out what the profit is.
I got some DOT experience in Florida this summer. I don't know, Alabama's the same where they get pay brackets for positions. Remember that was kind of an issue that they had run into.
When you come in, they'll say instrument men, and they will audit all our instrument men and average that pay, and say, okay, and then use a multiplier and put that on there. So what I can tell you, if you got a company, you're gonna try to get everybody really paid high into those brackets. So if you got a company, that's all they do is DOT, they're probably gonna pay higher because their multiplier goes against that. Now, if they try to do something on a private side, they get slaughtered. Because now their multiplier won't work against private industry. So there's a balance in there of how you want to do it. If you really get it is a game on how we set some of these numbers up. But everybody, you gotta know how to do it.
And who does this? Yeah, concrete department or you there?
No, it's an outside. No, okay, if you're a small company, you should do it yourself. I mean, I knew what my multiplier was. But now if you're doing DOT or you're doing a federal project, you're gonna hire an outside consulting firm to come there and they audit your books. Now, remember that list I had up? They wouldn't use my rent. My rent got tossed out because I own the building. Okay, now if it was rent from somebody else, it would go into my multiplier and I'd get a higher multiplier. So they have all kinds of rules together. You get in there, you start learning how to do this. And you really start learning where your break even point is. So once you get that, you have a rate. Now we're gonna start getting into this. Notice you ain't got to read it. I know there's no way to read it. We price out a job. We pretty much have a spreadsheet. If you can read the spreadsheet, it's going to go down and say admin costs, setting up the boundary, how many monuments, how many feet a day can we do with levels. And what it does, it makes you think of all the items. You start looking at how many items we have on a typical project. You run these down and some of them are factors. If we're doing laser scanning, when I started out, if you did one scan, it was a half day of office work. It was almost, a half a day we could catch up with that. The ratio now is 1 day, 4 days of office work because of scanning. Because we could do 8 or 10 scans in a day when we started. Now we do 300. And it's also processing, but now we got to go back and the clients want more. So you start having ratios on how you're going to price things out. Some of these things you got to look at. You're working in an airport. When are you going to let me in? I got killed on the first one. Okay, this thing should have took 3 days. Well, you got to wait for the security guy to come in here. Well, it's foggy. We're not going to let you out. So a week later, I'm trying to finish this thing up because I can't get access. Or do you have to do testing before you go in? They're going to wait 3 hours. If we're doing DOT, we got to manage traffic. We got to set up cones, flags. So we got to have that put into the cost.
Or you have site-specific safety training. What's that?
We first started doing scanning. I could not email you or transfer the data. We're sending hard drives. So I'll find out by the time I get done with that, I'll send out 4 hard drives. There's $400 or $500 I didn't have in the budget. So now I started adding in how many hard drives. So you start listing those in. So you have sheets like this. We have them for scanning. We have them for boundary. We have them for topo. You start learning. You come back in. Actually, when I first started, I would price the jobs up. I'd go look at it when I got done. I'd go back and look at it, and I was 20% low. So what I do is I price jobs and add 20%. And it worked. Which later on I find out why I'm doing that, so I can correct it up. But you really get a real understanding on that.
Did you do the same thing when you were a smaller shop? Like if someone calls and say, hey, I need a track of land, you do that?
It's on the back of a napkin, but that's.
I'll take. Actually, I almost still do it on price of job. You get a job and you've done so many of them, you come in and say it's a 5-acre thing with this many trees. And so I get a job and I look at it and go, 32,000. I mean, that's $32,000 job. Then I go in there and I start breaking the components out. How much is the boundary going to cost and this and this and this? I get a number. And honestly, I would sit down with a thing and I would sit down and sound stupid, but I'd go, okay, if I'm running the crew, I think I'm gonna do this in 1 day. I'll probably get this done in 2 days. This 3, I'm gonna cut out the line. This is gonna take me 4 days. And I would just like I'm a little mannequin going around the job. And then I'd write the days down. And usually they're really close. If there's a discrepancy in there, you start saying why. Now, I know if you get in Alabama, Georgia, if you have a boundary, they'll tell you, I don't even know what the price is now. It's $1 per linear foot. Or if any of you looked at that, if you get a boundary survey, they'll tell you, we've done so many that we know it costs $2 per linear foot on average. And that's how they'll actually base jobs. Totally are, it's $10 an acre, or $100 an acre. The thing is, you can have jobs that they could be wide open fields, or they could be, you have to cut your lines for everything on.
Is it normal in your contract that you put in, the possibility of you having to go to court or some problem? Because, you spend a lot of time in court.
I'm about to show you that. Kathy, let me cover this real quick. David Bacon Act, when we did the request for proposals, the reason they do that, if you're doing a federal job, Davis Bacon Act said, we can't just bid all these really high-end jobs out because it's a race to the bottom. In other words, who can get cheaper till your bridge collapse. They finally said, heck with that, you're gonna do it on qualifications. Florida law has what they call CCNA. It's a consultant negotiation act, which has the same stuff that we have to do. So that's really what drives that. Either that, or a lot of the counties would just bid the jobs out. I mean, it would strictly bid them out because it's easy. But it kind of goes to the bottom. We're gonna start showing some projects. If you need something, there's Mr. Chad. Again, just saying, I'm gonna go through a
It's trying to make me look younger.
GQ Chad. I'm gonna pull up a proposal. I'm just gonna show you a typical proposal we sent out. This is flour baking. I think this one's a scanning job. So really what we're gonna do is, here's the first page. Prepper Units, my office did this. Basically says, hey, this is what the job is. First page. Then you start getting into detail. Project overview. We tell you what we're gonna do. Our understanding of the project is this. So really, here's what the boundary looks like. These are the areas we're gonna scan. You give them a map saying, here's our limits. If not, I guarantee the limits gets bigger in their mind than what you're pricing. Always happens. You can go into the AXI standards. This is, the scanning gets a little more technical. So we're really telling them more details on what we're doing with the scan. Just don't go and say, I'm gonna scan this. Because there's so many different levels, so many different kind of technologies. You really stayed out in what you're doing. It's approximately 5,300 square feet of interior. Here's how we're going to do it so they understand what we're giving them. A lot of times the accuracy stuff gets really complicated because they're asking you to do something you can't even measure. Now, I've had that a lot. I want the building measure to 1,000. I'm like, at what temperature? Because the building expands more than what they're trying to tell us to do. But somebody will end up doing it. I mean, it's just crazy. Here's our assumptions. We really stayed out those assumptions that's going on with the project. We're going to get access. We can get in at these times. Here's everything we're kind of assuming that you're going to do. We go ahead and state them out. But if you don't, it's down to, here's the CAD program we're going to give you. Here's the data we're going to give you. The best thing for us to do is send a sample. Here's what you're going to get. A lot of times, especially in the scan, we used to send it and they couldn't load it. So we had to rechange what we were doing. One time we sent something out and it came back and said, is that as good as you can get? We're like, oh no, we'll send you the whole data. And they're like, that's what we want. But they couldn't, the computers wouldn't handle it. We did an I-10 project. That was at 600 crew days. We had to knock out. We had a meeting post Bucky. They came back and said, your fonts are all wrong. We're like, you got too much data in this man. We're like, well, what do you want to take off? We had to go back to many notes where we said, hey, here's a font, here's the style you want, and they signed off on it. Either that or they're going to make us change it. You got to send them the email and then you don't hear from them again. So you got to state what you're doing on these things. This is vertical, the model. This is the data we're going to send you. Additional services, this is where he was talking about testifying. List out the things you're not gonna do. We're not gonna do this, we're not gonna do this. If you want legal description, that's an additional, this is just scanning file. If you want the boundary zone, that's additional services. All the things they may ask you to do, go ahead and list out separately that you're not gonna do. So really what we're calling additional services. Another way of saying is, hey, this ain't included. So really, that's how you price them out. You come down and give them the price. And then we give them notes on billing. Because it doesn't do you any good if you don't get paid. So, you got something you want to share?
Yeah, I've got a spreadsheet that I was gonna show, just to.
I want to do that because I've got others, but there's another one here. There's another one next to it. All right, it's all yours. Anybody got any questions about what I was talking about? It's like, because here's the thing, when you go to work for somebody, if you get a really, really high salary, they're trying to cover you on you gotta understand why they're gonna pressure you to produce. Because that number gets way up there quick.
So I'm gonna show you guys a proposal that we did, not too long ago. It was a successful proposal. Take just a minute. And I'll show you how we go about pricing it. Yeah. Air don't range when you see this.
You speak up, I can't hear you.
All right, so this is a proposal, much what Alan was going over earlier. There's traditional cover letter. This is for a renewables project in Mississippi. It's a solar farm. Forget it's about 680 acres. Sam has had a lot of success in the renewable space. We offer aerial mapping, Alta survey, so boundary title review, and then we come back with these Altas and as-built Alta surveys. So generally, these projects last about 3 or 4 years, and we'll track them from when they're purchased on the front end until they're closed out at the end. There may be construction layout in the middle, there may be other things, but we still go over the project overview, the assumptions that Alan mentioned earlier. We'll also do scope of services, and this is where we get into our aerial LiDAR. And then all of the different services that, we offer for the project.
Who writes this up?
The project manager typically writes these up. Okay, now, we have written a ton of these to the same client, so we kind of rinse and repeat a lot, but take some time to kind of develop that perfect, verbiage. But there are things like this project's in Mississippi, where you want to make sure we're not mentioning Tennessee or Alabama, or little things that kind of make you look dumb, right? But what I asked the project manager to do is go through every line. Go through, you're writing it from the start, right? And go through line by line and make sure that we're covering all of our bases, because every project is different. Most of the time, the project manager will work on the fee proposal, and then they'll work on the written proposal. So those work together. But they'll work at their fee first, or they'll work at their proposal first, then work on the fee. So this is just kind of a sample of how we price this particular project. I can give you a quick picture what it looked like. So it's 680 acres. Typically, the client would send us some kind of KMZ file that we can open in Google Earth, and then we take measurements from there. But on this particular project, and what I have the guys that work on these do is we break down everything. How many roads, how many railroads, if there's joiners, how many adjoiners, how many subject parcels are involved. All of this information up here, and then we start calculating our different steps. So like we have a proposal project set up, kickoff meeting, work order. So before a field crew goes out in the field, we're going to write them specific instructions on exactly what to do. And I mean, sometimes it can get as simple as go to a boundary. It depends on your crew experience, right? Or it may be drive truck to site, open the door of the truck, okay, step out of the truck. It can get pretty detailed, but the point that I'm trying to make here is being a surveyor, being the office technician, we're dictating what procedures we want field crews to use to achieve what we're trying to accomplish. Okay, so if we're using RTK, if we're using static, if we're setting aerial control. So we have a kickoff meeting on every project. And that just gets everybody on the same page. There may be multiples, just depending on how large it is. Okay. B plots. So I live in a meets and bounds state, so a lot of D plots. You know, no telling how big they are, no telling how old the deeds are, but we have office techs sit there and trace these things out. Every one of them, they create a separate file for everyone, so the staff surveyor, signing surveyor can bring those into the job. Okay. We do a field kickoff meeting. We have aerial survey support. So generally on these projects, we'll set 6 to 8 aerial targets on the ground. So this is the time that we use to do the office processing of that. Do the field survey, and doing any kind of verifications of it, but before we send that to the aerial group, so they can calibrate all of their data. We do 811 calls. Okay, so we call 811 to no avail every time. They tell us, sorry, you're a surveyor, but we did it. Okay, they're not going to mark underground utilities, but the client asked for it, so we do it. Boundary tree survey, and then we put some time in there for the field cleanup, go set pins, right? So it's inevitable on a large project like this, we're gonna have a go back. Now, we don't want that, but it's gonna happen. So we put some time in the job, we put time in the budget, okay, for all of that. Looking at other things, this particular case, we figured the map was gonna be 14 sheets. So we have time built into that for generating the maps, okay? Schedule B section 2 review. So if you get a title commitment, we do on all of these just about, there's gonna be time in there to review those and map the exceptions. Writing legal descriptions. Typically, we have to write a legal description after we go through the process here. We put time in for that. And then in this particular case, we put our mobilization time. So this one's in Mississippi. It's about 4 hours away for us. So we put how many mobilizations we're going to have, how many miles, how much time it's going to take. Okay. And this spreadsheet basically gives us an opportunity to add time to each of those tasks. So, you know, it may be 60 hours to do the field time. Well, then we put our equipment fees in there. We put our mileage fees. We put per diem fees. And then if there's expenses, just general expenses, say they needed some fence post, or they needed lath, or they needed rebar, or something to that effect, we put this in here, okay? And at the end of the day, it's calculating a total fee. So in this case, it was 58,500, and we've taken a couple of metrics to try to figure out cost per foot, cost per acre, just to give us a kind of a check, to say the least, on what we're proposing. And going back to what Alan said, those aren't making sense to where we've been in the past. The why? Why is it not right there? Dealing with the railroad is expensive. Costs money to get on the railroad. If this thing had 4 or 5 railroads next to it, that would be a good reason of why this would cost more. Okay. So all of this rolls into a fee. It's usually at the bottom of the page here. And we have an opportunity to put a contingency right here. So in my opinion, there's 3 things: scope, fee, schedule. You get 2. Okay, you don't get all 3. All right. You get fee, your scope's going to suffer. You get fee and scope, your schedule's going to suffer. Okay. So with the contingency here, this is kind of where we put the I don't know fee in there. Okay. Is the client easy to work with? Okay. 0 is a yes. Is the client difficult? 30%. Okay. Is it wooded? Is it next to a river? Is it going to be access going to be tricky? Did we not have enough time to put the proposal together? Like if they're calling me on a Friday saying I'm needing on a Monday and it's a $500,000 project, I guarantee you I'm not going to put the time I would really want into it. That number's going to go up. Okay. Because I don't know. All right.
And where would you put, I was asking,
Is that,
and most likely in the future, statute of limitation require you to go and give your expert testimony on a given project. You factor that in?
That's when we're doing the proposal. I think you walked out. We have what we call additional services, which we would say expert testimony,
Okay.
which is a nice way of saying it's not included.
Yes. And
Okay, that's where you kind of listen to that.
this is a big thing, and I don't know how much you guys do it, Eric, but one of my assumptions that I always put in here, and I don't know exactly where it is. Well, basically, there is an assumption in there that when I get to the property, I'm gonna find enough boundary evidence to recreate the boundary. If I get out there and I can't, or it's not there, or the deeds are so bad you can't understand it, right, the price is gonna go up because I'm not here to solve the world, right? So that's an assumption that I've used time and time again when the situation on the ground is unforeseen, or you can't control it. All of this fee schedule that this fee proposal is doing is trying to control everything you can, right? Thinking through the process, step A to Z on exactly what we're doing.
But when the customer gets that first, how would you know that I have a problem with this one? You can't come back and say, hey, my fee by 10%, because I didn't see the boundary.
Well,
That's got to be written in the scope.
it's got to be.
But there's,
Yeah.
I can tell you, I've got other jobs where they priced that out as a wide open field. They delayed the project for 6 months. We got back, it was that high damn boot.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, that went from a 2-day job to a impossible.
Yeah.
So you really what you gotta do then, is train the crew to call and say,
Hey, something.
we can't find any boundary corners, you call the client. Hey, here's what we can, and usually they'll work with you.
Yeah.
But this thing grows. As you do these things, you start finding out this proportion's off, and you start adjusting it. So it starts getting pretty good.
But if it didn't, what you submit there is going to be within prices people went in with, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cushion or buffer area
unanticipated circumstances.
Well, and we've trained this particular client to, because that's a lot of it. I mean, you train your client, because these guys don't know, right? Is, hey, we're gonna give you an extra $10,000 in fee. We're gonna put that in our proposal. We're not gonna use it unless you tell us to. But it's for all the unforeseen. And that just saves on the attorney having to get involved because they've got to review another contract or going through accounting or anything like that, that would hold up the process. Because, I mean, these guys are paying interest on this land. It's costing money. Survey needs to happen quickly. Right?
Your contingency number is subjective because based on your opinion, right?
Opinion of.
So you can tell the number to a client or just keep it internal to yourself.
So I'm telling them, like,
Right.
the client does not see this.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Now, I'll tell you, we have had some arguments at one time, and we're doing it for Emory University. I just said, I'm gonna send you a spreadsheet. You tell me what you want to take out. And they looked at it like, okay, this all looks reasonable to them.
Yeah.
But usually we don't send that out.
Oh,
Something else I was going to say too is, he said the project manager of our office do that. Usually what you try to do is hand it to the person you think is gonna run that job. Because now they got a vested interest in this job, so they know it's coming to them, they're really gonna look at it. A lot of times, like Fred would do that scanning thing, he'll walk in, show me what's going on, hand me a spreadsheet, have me look at it. And I'll go, have you looked at this or have you looked at that?
Yeah.
You know, some of it's, I'm telling you earlier. If it's a December job, oh, screwed. Weather's bad, crews are hunting, the holidays are on, there's no light. We can't work 10-hour days because there's only 8 hours of light we can work. It changes that number. You know, so you really got to understand when it's coming out. But you always want a second person looking.
Yeah, so if I'm doing something like this, or a PM in my office is doing something like this, they'll send it to me before it's due and say, hey, just take a look at this. Because when you get into these things, depending on how many you've done that week or kind of whatever, you have tunnel vision or you see things that maybe somebody else didn't see or vice versa.
And everybody quotes things differently as far as how they estimate hours. So if by getting a second set of eyes on it, not everybody quotes it the same.
Yeah.
You know, like some people like Fred, he tries to needle in on every 15 minutes it's gonna take to count out deeds. Whereas when I go through stuff, I base it like a ratio method. If there's this, you know, if we're doing 10 hours of field work, I know there's gonna be 5 hours drafting and an hour and a half of licensed surveyor managing it, you know?
Yeah.
And I kind of, like Alan said, I count the number of field days and I got my ratio done.
Yeah.
And other people will do hour by hour.
But Fred is the ultimate pessimist, so his numbers are always higher.
3 times I.
Yeah, if you win a job, send it to Joseph or Eric. If you
But-
wanna just go ahead and not win a job, send it to Fred.
So I'll tell you the other thing, when we get a job,
Fred wins some job.
Yeah.
He's profitable, so I can't complain too much.
yeah. The one thing that's nice about Sam, when we get the job in, first thing I get it in and say, can I fly it? Can I use aerial LiDAR? Can I use the UAV on it? Can we run the truck? You know, we have mobile LiDAR, sometimes that knocks the price down. You got all these possibilities to go, yes, hit, no, no, no. And you're finally down to, I got to cut the lines out and grid it. But you really look at what technology can you run the job with? Because the higher we go up the chain, the faster we get it out, the better we can get it, cheaper the prices. So we got a lot available. First thing I do is method.
Yeah.
And method and output.
Yeah, got to figure out what your deliverable needs to be and then how to get there. And then schedule, right? So.
Yeah.
So this is just a general, you know, I mean, this is a real life example, but this is kind of how we go through this, thinking through it line by line of whatever. And like Eric said, now when I get these, I scroll down to the bottom and I see, all right, we've got 150 hours of 2-man crew, and we've got 140 hours of survey tech. Good. Right. I mean, that's just a feel you get for it. that I know on these altars, it's about 1 to 1. So now to tie it back to what you said, when you were showing your little ball of growth there, profit, right? So on the backside of this, oh, if you're good at geomatics, get good at Excel. So this is a little spreadsheet we run, and this is our profit calculator. This basically has the average rates for all of our staff. So we group all this together, we average, and we say, okay, look, the average instrument man, makes $22 an hour. Okay. Based off that and based off the number of hours they work, calculating the overhead, calculating all of those things. This particular project, we tried to be aggressive on and win it. We're at 17% profit. Okay. That's this line right here. You can't really see it. That's where it tells me. Okay. That tells me, and I can start playing with our rates to be more aggressive if I need to, or if I know the client likes to pay 30% profit, I can go over to my contingency, the one that we were talking about a little bit earlier. This little guy right here, somewhere. This one, and I can add 10%, or I can add 15%. And that's gonna go straight to the profit line, okay? So that's how we look at these, okay? Do y'all use this spreadsheet?
We all have
Yeah.
some kind of stuff.
Everybody has something a little
Yeah.
similar.
So,
Everybody develops their way of doing it.
yeah, so it looks, they may look a little different, office to office, region to region. But we're all doing the same thing. Okay. Let's see if you got any questions.
When you submit your project, you have to have different table to do budget justification, right? Because to our client, so you gotta have different layout of these numbers into your client.
Yeah, so I am a big fan of, the client needs to see less detail unless they ask it. If they want a survey, that's all they know. I'm gonna give them one number, survey X. Now, our scope and our assumptions have covered what we're doing and what we're not doing. But me giving them one number allows me to move numbers around.
Right.
Mid-project, say aerial cost a little more than it should have, but field survey came in under, I can move those budgets just around and keep different organizations in the company happier.
All right.
I can tell you, I've never had a client ask me, what kind of TL light do you run? They don't care about the gear. They want the product and the price. And you use this if it's a backup. Now, what's fun is, I talked about an I-10 job we did. Do one of these things where you got 600 man days in it.
Yeah.
You're looking at $800,000, $900,000 project. You're really breaking out on a lot of stuff. That's when you get 3 or 4 of us around the table.
Yeah.
Working on.
And it's amazing, you hand this project to Eric or somebody that bids a lot of these. We come pretty close to the same number every time. Our fees may not be the same, but our hours are close to the same.
Yeah. Remember Land Air?
Yeah.
We used to do a lot of work with Tate.
Yeah.
And we got on the same contracts. He'd have me work up a fee and I sent it to him. He'd be pissed off because it's the same price. Like, I was hoping you were lower. But, 2 different states, different ways of working it. And we were so close to the price all the time. So it's like the same type thing all the way around. Any other questions on that? But that's how all your companies are gonna work that way. Only one we didn't cover was you're doing lot surveys and they charge by a lump sum.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can do it by the hour, like we do an estimate. You can do a lump sum, which actually, we really like lump sums because we tend to be faster.
Yeah.
So we do it more effectively and faster than other people are putting out, then really you get a lot more profit.
Right, yeah.
Then there's cost of materials. It could be. They're gonna, you charge by the hour at a certain rate.
Yeah, so when you do a time and material budget, you're set to a profit percentage. There's really nothing you can do. If you work 1 hour, you bill 1 hour, right? So that's, there's ways to do that. We also do a lot of day rate. So if you're working on construction, construction sites, we have a half day rate and a full day rate. And, if you call my crew out for 2 hours, well, you've broken them from doing something else for 6 hours, so we charge that half day just to make it worth it.
Biggest thing I'll say on the proposals is, like you had the assumptions area in there. Think about your qualification, like what was in your brain whenever you went through to create those numbers that you came up with. If you said, okay, I think I'm gonna be reviewing 4 title commitments, put that in your proposal. I plan on reviewing 4 title commitments. If you're doing a tree survey and you estimated, okay, there's gonna be 300 trees, say, I'm assuming there's gonna be 300 trees. So if you go out there and there's 1,000, you can say, hey, I got to charge more money. I didn't anticipate doing this much work. So whatever's in your mind as you're coming up with numbers, make sure you put that in your proposal.
Yeah, and most of your assumptions that are listed, there's a reason it's there. It's happened before. Okay, so,
Lessons learned.
yeah, very much lessons learned.
Lessons paid for.
Lessons paid. Money lost.
Andy, when do you have time touching this?
Where in the project.
I mean,
Underestimate.
No comment.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't talk about those.
We'll talk over that.
I do have a question. Say our students start working for a company. After how many years? Or after getting certain qualifications, they can start getting into this. Oh, okay, 3-4 years.
As far as you, handing your proposal, say, hey, write it, and you still have your checks and balances, someone's obviously gonna review it. Even qualified licensed surveyors from, 30 years still want someone to check over their work.
Well, just gaining that experience, whether it's in the office, in the field, or in both, will help you write and prepare those proposals more accurately. Because if you've been working in the field for a couple of years, you work in the office, well, all right, 1,000-acre boundary, it's wooded, you've been there cutting line, traverse around, all right, it's gonna take 100 days or whatever it may be. Same way with drafting. So yeah, having that experience prior to sitting down and running up cost estimates is very crucial.
So that's the biggest thing. We're making a huge investment hiring students because you don't know anything. You graduate, you think you know everything, you're ready to go. You can run I can run a Top Gun instrument, I can run a Top Gun data collector, then you go work for somebody who's Trimble. So we're literally investing so much into you because the day you leave here and you're all excited, oh, I got a job, I'm gonna be a licensed surveyor. We're losing money on you for 4 years until you really get efficient enough to actually run a proposal and run a project to make a profit. That's like his big bubble there. We saw up there. You're the worst. You're killing that bubble from the second you step in our door. But that's the thing, we're trying to invest in students. We're trying to go religion. Well, I'm just saying that you're not qualified. You're not qualified. There's a reason.
to see very well.
I would say 4 years, but it doesn't take long. But again, I call party chiefs in and say, how many feet a day can you do on this kind of project? Because they know.
Yeah.
They'll look at it like, I can't do 1,500 feet a day. And they'll tell you why. Like, okay, this number's getting shrunk down.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, it's not gonna take 4 years. But it depends.
Depends on the person.
They get a crazy salary,
I just know from experience, I know a lot of my friends who are, just now getting licensed stuff where they're just not really, if you work for, bigger firms, it does take a bit.
So I think we move them up pretty quick.
Yeah.
Well, one thing we're hiring because we ain't got to give you all the background. We can train you much faster. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
We bring you in, you're already, you've got the background that I haven't got to teach somebody for a long period of time. Yeah, if you're interested and you're gonna, they say the groups now learn a lot faster than we did. You're used to it.
Well, and what we're gonna try to do is put you in a market, put you in a style of work where you can get comfortable. Because, I mean, I'm proposing on gas pipe line. If you get good at that, you win some jobs, you get good at the product, build a client, you do all the things. But I'm not over there proposing on roadway work either, because roadway's completely different, it's completely different fee structure, completely different, a lot of things. And you will, like, I don't care if you got 10 years in it, you're gonna lose every time. So.
I think we're done.
I think we have a strong forward. Let me close by saying, thank you all very much. We do appreciate all the information. Please, I mean, image, yes, talk about this. Very admirable, very good, a lot of dialogue. Appreciate it very much. Thank you for the food. Thank you for the shrimp board. And one last thing I want to close is the late Carl Bunce. We used to survey a lot of the lands here in High County and Troy. You would know, Eric, during that time when you're doing surveys of these properties in Troy. He said to me, Steve, can you tell these students who are about to graduate one thing? And that one thing is, when you graduate, shut up and listen and learn from these guys. All right, so that little bubble you're talking about there, we have students who can excel very fast. We have students who take a bit of time to learn this, the professional. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Very interesting.